Hey, it's Deep Focus. I'm your host, Mitch Goldman. It's Monday, March 24th, 2025. I am in the studio for this Deep Focus on Randy Weston with Vijay Iyer. Oh, man, we're rolling. In fact, if you did not listen to parts 1 and 2, I would definitely try to find those first. And otherwise, well, here we go. This is part 3.
Blakey. Woo. Blakey.
Those guys are having fun.
Thank you very much. And now to introduce...
Well, no, we're not going to introduce anybody just yet, but other than ourselves. And that guy, that was Randy Weston. And you're listening. Let me tell you where you're at. You're listening to WKCR FM New York, WKCR HD, WKCR.org. Anywhere in the world, you can tell your friends where to find us as long as they have a connection to the internet. They can hear us live all the time. And this show, Deep Focus, we're giving it all away free. Hundreds of hours posted. You can, well, I say, there's 3 things that you can give away and you still have. 1 is love. 2 is a cold. And 3 is deep focus.
Hey.
You can send it to your friends. You can go on to
the mixed company, I guess you would say.
That's right. Go to the hosting site is Mitch Goldman. That's me. MitchGoldman.podbean.com. Or you can just find it on your podcasting app on your phone. And you can, you can listen to any of hundreds of episodes that are posted, or you can share it with friends, and which we really love when you do that. We we've got listeners in, I think, over 65 countries, but only 1 in each, most of them. but that counts. They all count. You guys mean so much to us.
Can we go visit them and maybe camp out for a few years?
I think maybe. I do get some very enthusiastic emails, and we love hearing from you. And getting the likes and the thumbs up and all that is fantastic. And the best thing you could do, just share it with somebody. Tell somebody about it. It really makes all the difference in the world. And when you do, you can also tell them about the music of Vijay Iyer, who's my guest tonight. And Vijay, thank you, I'm going to say right now, for calling our attention to Randy Weston, which is just a gift that just keeps on giving and giving. We've been here for the last 2 hours playing live, unreleased recordings of him in a variety of formats. And in fact, even just in that last set, there was a variety of formats. You want to take us through a little bit of what we heard right there?
We heard a good amount of solo piano, Randy Weston playing at the Chicago Jazz Festival Labor Day weekend of 1984. 3 pieces of solo piano, Casbah Kids, The Healers, and Pennypacker Blues. And then he was joined in I don't know how many times they played together, because New York probably brought them together, who knows, any number of times in the 50s and 60s. And yet I am not aware of any recording of them together.
Yeah, me neither.
And so this was Mr. Weston with the great Art Blakey on drums, one of the founders of modern drumming, you could say, one of the originals, the true innovators on the drum set. So hearing them together was you may have recognized that piece because we played it about an hour ago with a different ensemble from several years earlier. It's full of these exciting breaks and solo statements. It's very rhythmic. It's very driving. And the thing about the duo context is that Mr. Weston becomes more orchestral in his approach, a lot of bottom end, a lot of power. And I was actually hearing the solo pieces. I remembered this moment. As I said earlier, it seems like a long time ago, but it was 2 hours ago, I said that I first encountered him and his music in the mid-'90s, and it was this really spacious, elegant, and spare, and lyrical. I would say lyrical, but also really deep, bottom-rich kind of music. The African Rhythms Trio, it seemed like compositional language was so focused. It could be just one idea stated over 32 bars, and then the bridge would be another 32 bars, let's say, but it would be the same idea stated a slightly different way. As it was very, it really took its time, you know. And so I came to understand him as this kind of musician, like this was the way he had always been, maybe. And then I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a time maybe 15 or more years ago when Barry Harris's old studio was vandalized.
Oh, yeah.
And they held a fundraiser at this kind of social club in Midtown. And a bunch of musicians were playing, but also a bunch of people were just hanging out talking. And one of the musicians who played was Randy Weston, but the crowd was so loud that he had to play differently from what I was used to hearing him play. And actually what I realized is that this is probably the way he used to play
right
in clubs in the 50s, you know, when it may have been a bunch of people talking and so on. But it was like...
not like a guy who came up in New York didn't know how to handle that.
That's right. And he was actually on fire that night. And I remember that I had a whole new thing on him, as my friend Rudresh and I would say. It was really like a revelation to me that, this fire was there the whole time, even though his music has flowed more like water and had this real transparency like air, and had this real depth like earth, but there was always this fire in it. And so to hear that fire kind of flare up like that in that music, that was basically, I heard a little bit of that in the first and the third pieces here. The solo pieces where it's really him lighting it up, and in a way just in this exuberant style of playing that has always been in him, but it took it less of a prominent role in his later music.
Especially, you know, I felt like a real intimacy, kind of like maybe the way he might play for himself, and feeling the piano out, and it responds to him and he to it. And to think, you know, you've been to that Chicago Jazz Festival. I mean, this is not something I generally think of as a place for these intimate little moments. It's like a hot summer day out by the lake, and, you know, whoever's passing by, and this big crowd of people who maybe that one day a year might be the only time that they're listening to live music.
That's right, yeah.
And he's taking them down into this.
Yes, that second piece, The Healers, had that expansive and, daring to be quiet in front of tens of thousands of people. That takes a real inner strength, you know, and confidence, a composure. But, you know, what happened actually when we were sitting here listening is that we fell silent and we became really enraptured by it too. It has that power. He always had that power. And in a way, what I was getting at earlier in the show when I was talking about how his overall conception and aesthetic started to shift and allow more space and breath, we hear a glimpse of that there with that piece, The Healers. And you also hear, so at that time, this year we looked it up, and he was 58 in 1984. And so not young, but not ancient either. I'm just going to say that because I'm 53, and I don't feel that 58 is necessarily like your old news or something. But
well, I mean, that is one of the wonders of Randy Weston. And you could say this about a lot of musicians in this field that we are so inspired by. Him in a particular way, he never stopped developing and finding new things.
Yeah, it was actually, that interview that I quoted earlier that I did with him, I asked him about this research orientation that seemed to be such a key part of who he was as an artist, this sense of like seeking, he was always seeking new sounds and new information, a deeper understanding of the world and his place in it and his people's place in it, a deeper sense of community, a more expansive sense of community. That Pan-Africanist sensibility that kind of, when he spoke of Africa, he was invoking this really expansive sense of it that was the continent, its diaspora, all its people living and dead, all the cultures, and asserting that it had its own rightful place, central place in world history. And but this whole process for him of exploring that, exploring all the vicissitudes of it, also meant traveling across Asia, collaborating with Asian musicians. There's a great album from around 2000 called Khepera, Khepera, with Min Xiao Fen on pipa on it. And there is a kind of conception of what does this encounter mean, and what does it conjure? What histories does it point to? And so that was a question he was always trying to find new answers to. He would ask really human questions, and that was kind of what drove his artistic pursuits. Really human questions like, who are we? Why are we here? That kind of thing. And that, which then also became spiritual questions.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting thinking about how that fits in with the music, and his ability to move through idioms and into his own place of exploration, and what he's discovering and taking us through that.
That's right.
Vijay Iyer is our guest here on WKCR, and Vijay, it might surprise some of our WKCR listeners that you occasionally do other things besides appear on the show Deep Focus.
It's not my only job. I'm glad, because I don't get paid to be here. I know, do you?
I do not. But, there's cookies.
Music. We get paid in music.
Yes, we are well paid, yeah.
At times try to make music myself.
Really? Tell me more.
I play a little bit of piano, compose, write a couple of notes down, make a couple of albums here and there.
Yes.
And I just released one. In fact, it is a duo with yet another one of my heroes, an elder who was very dear to me, who I've worked with for just about exactly 20 years. His name is Wadada Leo Smith. He plays trumpet, and he is a visionary composer and philosopher, I would say, theorist, music conceptualist, and sage. It's like being in the presence of a wise man, a monk or something. And he's 30 years older than me. He's been around for a while, but we have this really beautiful bond that we've cultivated over these years. And this is our second duo album. It came out on Friday. And if you're in the future right now, and you're hearing us,
our listeners, many of them are.
The Friday I'm listening to was March 21st, 2025, which is in our past, and probably in your past. Yeah. If you're listening to this too, March 21st, last Friday, we put out our second duo album. It's titled Defiant Life. It's on ECM Records. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a whole new field of discovery awaiting us.
Yes. And the duo is a really magical format. It brings a lot out of any pianist, certainly, because you have to function as not just as a partner, but also as the sort of environment. In a way, you create space as well as dialogue, So you often have to do multiple things at once. You have to have a foundation, and you have to be kind of engaging in a more discursive way.
That kind of sounds like a description of what a lot of Wadada's music.
Yes, that's right. That's true. And I've learned a lot from him. We've learned a lot together, I would say, about the art of the duo, because we've now told this story a few times. We were doing an interview for the ECM podcast, your rival podcast.
Oh.
Is it okay to mention another podcast on here?
Absolutely. As long as you mention mine when you're on there.
That's right. Quid pro quo. No, but Wadada said, Vijay, do you remember our first duo? And I said, I think what you're referring to is our first concert, which was actually in Paris, and it was filmed, and they released it on DVD, even though it was our first gig. It was sort of chaotic in a way. It was with Ronald Shannon Jackson, No Stranger to You.
Yeah.
And me and John Lindberg. It was Wadada's newly reformed Golden Quartet, starting in 2005. And, we were playing his music, and sometimes it wouldn't work out the way it was supposed to, and things would kind of melt down or break down, or people would just stop playing, And so there were moments of crisis where Wadada would just walk over to me, and then we'd start playing something, and then we'd kind of take these steps to get ourselves out of whatever pickle we were in, and that was basically the birth of our duo. Was kind of in a moment of crisis, we found each other and found a path forward, and that is what we do. Still is what we do, and that moment of crisis
might
be
life.
Yes, exactly, and that moment of crisis might be the world as it is, and we find each other in it and try to make something from it, out of it, towards something better.
Are there opportunities coming along for people here in New York or elsewhere to hear?
Well, we just played at MoMA, so no, you can't hear that because it is also in the past. On Friday, we had it coincided with our release day. We got to play at the Museum of Modern Art. We will be getting around and about a bit. We're playing at the MERS Festival in Germany on June 9th. Then we're doing a couple things, something in Chicago, something at Montreal Jazz Fest towards the end of June, and a bit of a little tour in October. Probably a couple things will emerge. So I'm just grateful to... Oh, I forgot, we're playing at Big Ears this weekend. Yes.
That's a big one.
I'm sort of... That festival stresses me out so much that I find myself kind of like willfully forgetting that it's happening, even though I'm about to go there in a couple of days. So, Wadada is actually one of the artists in residence at Big Ears this year. And he's got a whole bunch of concerts of his music throughout the weekend. And I'm in two of them. One of them is our duo, and another is an ensemble project called Revolutionary Fire Love. And I'm also going to be playing there with Fieldwork, which is a band with myself, Tyshawn Sori, and Steve Lehman. Two Columbia grads. They both got their doctorates here.
That's a lot.
I'll be kicking it at down in Knoxville for this almost unbearably massive festival of music. There's going to be tens of thousands of people there wandering around, and something like 15 or 16 concurrent stages. It's madness, actually.
If you are one of those tens of thousands, don't go to any of those other stages. Go
to these ones. Yeah.
Yes, go to the ones where Vijay's playing. This avail yourself the opportunity to experience Vijay Iyer's music. We'll take that first-hand recommendation from your host.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've heard more than a little of it.
I have. Haven't let me down yet. It's been quite a ride. Really, great pleasure. And so we're doing It's Deep Focus. Randy Weston is our topic. We took a little stroll through Paris, 1976. We had a lovely late summer day in Chicago, and we're off to points beyond. Or are we? Where to?
We're coming home to New York here.
Woo, thank goodness.
And to this century. This is a set recorded. Mr. Harper, in case you're listening, this is a duo set of Randy Weston and the great Billy Harper on saxophone. Recorded at Iridium. I've been there.
Yeah, right.
A club up the street, or down the street.
Yes. Yeah, Midtown Manhattan.
So, this particular, Mr. Weston did a few duo albums with saxophonists. There's one with David Murray, and there's at least one with Billy Harper, but I feel like there's some... Oh, Pharaoh. I feel like maybe there's one with Pharaoh, possibly. Anyway, there is this kind of ongoing relationship with the duo format, the duo with saxophone as its own particular format, and particularly tenor saxophone.
Yeah.
Piano and tenor saxophone is a kind of challenging... It's more challenging, I find, than playing piano with an alto saxophone. I'm not just saying that because Rudresh, I think, is listening. He just texted me. But because range-wise, things work differently. Mm-hmm. And you have to find a different strategy to kind of support and not clash with the person. And that's a mutual thing.
If I'm remembering this correctly, that there's both the piano and the tenor sax are exploring the dark bottom.
Yes, yeah. This set is real. There's a lot of experimentation in this set that I really enjoyed. I didn't listen too carefully because I wanted to be alive to it in real time as we experience it here. But what I did hear was really, it was new to me, actually.
Yeah.
Some new sounds, new to my understanding of Mr. Weston's music, and just new to the format, the duo format. They're really pushing themselves, and that's always a joy to witness, to be a part of.
And these guys have a long history of playing together.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, I remember there were these large ensemble recordings that Weston released in the 90s that had arrangements by Melba Liston, and Billy Harper was one of the prime soloists, along with Pharaoh and Dizzy. Do you remember these from maybe early 90s?
Yeah. And then think on Verve. I was working for Verve at the time.
Yeah. Were you now?
I was, yeah.
As one does.
As one does. Yeah. Verve, well, we were, Verve New York. He was with Verve Paris.
That's right.
Abby Lincoln,
yes.
et cetera.
And yes.
Yeah. But, we were marketing it here.
Yeah, I remember.
It was, powerful stuff. And let me also give a little mention to Brian Backus, who was producing a lot of that stuff. Who was
very key.
Also, key player in that. And
I hope he's listening.
I hope so. I'll gotta send it his way. And Jean-Philippe Allard, who we lost recently, who was the head of that division. But
right.
I think big contributions from both those guys to
definitely
our opportunities to hear Randy Weston's music.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. It's WKCR. The show is called Deep Focus. I'm your host, Mitch Goldman. Such a joy having Vijay Iyer in the studio with us. Our focus is on Randy Weston. We're hopping on the 1 train. We're heading downtown. We're going to get out at 49th Street, stroll around the corner to Iridium. Iridium. Yeah. You ready?
Whether the sun is out, it's hot, it's cold. And the same with the music. So let's go root of the blues, and one of the pieces we really like to get together, coming out of Berkshire Blues.
Oh, yeah.
Let's take another clip, Billy. It's a piece that was part of the Freedom Africa Suite we did in 1960, Uhuru Africa, with the great Melvin Liston arrangements. There's one piece that I created called African Lady. Dedicate our mothers and our grandmothers, our great-great-grandmothers, our sisters, those wonderful women always in the background. And we were very happy to have the great Langston Hughes write the lyrics. And one little line he said, goddess of sun, my lovely one, African lady. Langston Hughes, just in 4 or 5 words, it was a beautiful message. So we're going to do our version of African lady. We're going to lose the way.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. Two guys having a whole lot of fun right there.
That was great.
You're listening to WKCR. The show is called Deep Focus. I'm your host, Mitch Goldman, and I'm having such a great time sitting here across from Vijay Iyer here in the studio.
Indeed.
Indeed. Vijay called our attention to none other than Randy Weston, who continues to surprise.
Indeed. Yeah. This music is full of fire. It's full of experimentation and full of joy. It's also full of space and mystery. And it's just an ongoing discovery for me to hear these guys in this format. I'm not sure why I didn't go to this show. I was around, but probably just had something else going on. This was around probably Thanksgiving weekend in 2013. Yeah, it's a beautiful collaboration these guys have.
I don't think we said it's
Randy Weston and Billy Harper. Billy Harper on tenor saxophone, the great Texas Titan.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. And there's a real shared language here. They're it's very blues rooted and but with this expansive kind of twin vision that they're sharing. And
and at this point they'd already been working together for decades, so they're just stepping back into that river.
Yes,
and it's joyous.
Yeah, it just sounds like it's really easy for them.
If anybody out there knows the title of that last piece, I know I've heard it, but it is not anywhere to be found here in this little digital archive. The first piece of the set was Berkshire Blues, which we heard again. It's again one of Mr. Weston's early classics, and we heard it in the first hour in the set, the quintet set, or sextet set. Then they played a piece called African Lady, and then this piece that is only listed here as title. So it means that someone forgot to fill in the title field. But if any of you knows, please give us a shout or send me a text or call the station or whatever. I think I've heard it, and in fact, I feel like I've heard Billy Harper play it. So maybe it's one of his pieces, but I don't actually know.
I kept getting struck by the illusion. It sounds like a full band at times.
It does. And yet it's not like pianistically Randy Weston is trying to play deeply polyphonic or he's not always like walking a bass line and comping, and he's not doing all those. It's not even necessarily always playing the sort of stride style. Those elements appear at different moments, but he also uses them sparingly so that there are other options, including silence as a kind of element in music, even when the momentum is propulsive. When there's like in that last piece, there's a lot of, it's a up-tempo piece, and I'm always fascinated. I think I've always been fascinated by how Randy Weston uses space, but in a way that doesn't let up on intensity or momentum in the music. It's a nut he cracked. It's like something he solved. I often I mentioned earlier that I point students in his direction just because it's usually so alien to what they're used to doing. But I often point them to the album Blues to Africa from the mid-1970s. And there's music on there that, you feel the tempo, but he's not playing every beat. He doesn't have to keep articulating it, because once he sets it in motion, it has such strength that he can let up and you still feel it. It's like you hear it. You were just saying in the break that about Basie that you would hear the notes he wasn't playing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Like you hear sound that's not there somehow. It's like when it's instantiated in such a way, when the groove is deep and when the tempo is set up so that we feel it, then we kind of fill in the blanks as a listener. And that's something he was tapped into that I still find endlessly rewarding to kind of revisit.
I think you have to really know where that downbeat is and where that tonal center is to kind of play around it and not, state it.
Yeah, well, that's something that we were also talking about late style, right? Like, what is it for?
Right.
Well, how do elder musicians function when they know as much as they know, and they know that actually that you don't need to state everything in order for it to get across. So there's something about being understated. There's also something about that sense of balance and centeredness that a seasoned musician has that you hear in both of these artists in their playing, that they don't have to keep reinforcing things to each other or to themselves or to the listener. They know it's there and they know it's audible, and so and they know it's working,
Yeah, and there's and they make each other just sound great. They really do. I mean, and they don't even. It just seems like a given.
Yeah.
Creating this other thing between them.
Yeah, you can hear them enjoying it, and not just because you hear them laughing, which you also do, but you hear them musically enjoying each other and sort of like surprising each other, taking chances, and discovering things together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I always find myself saying this around this time. 3 hours flies by.
It really does, doesn't it?
We're coming down to the end of it. Any last thoughts, things you want to share? Anything didn't get said about Randy Weston, or
could you pass me my phone over there? I remembered that I remembered his memorial service in 2018, and I had an experience there that was so profound that I wrote about it. And I, if I may, would like to read.
Please,
what I wrote.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was, I believe, in September of that year, 2018. Does that sound right?
I can't say authoritatively. I could look it up.
He was 92.
Yeah.
We attended Randy Weston's homegoing service at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York City, just around the corner.
Yeah.
At 92 and 6'7", he was a giant, a leader, a sonic healer, a deep listener, a citizen of the non-West, a Brooklynite, a Pan-Africanist, a chief. The spans of his hands, his heart, and his lifetime were vast, and subsequently he spoke for many, a musical dignitary, an emissary of compassion. That day, the procession of his extra-long coffin was led by a chorus of drummers, a half-dozen playing a West African arsenal, djembes, talking drums, and two more with metal clappers playing Ganawa trance patterns. Their rhythmic admixture filled the senses and jerked your spirit aloft. The rest of us musicians were asked to follow in pairs behind the family who followed the pallbearers. We all gathered in an anteroom in close quarters, and the drummers started. As the rhythm unit lurched into motion, wrapped in bright fabrics, the sound filled the small chamber perfectly. But what happened next was a sound that I won't forget anytime soon. The doors flew open, and this thunderous ensemble exited the anteroom. Suddenly, all those acoustic vibrations tumbled into that cavernous hall, and their sound sprang forth to the distant walls of the enormous church, returning to us as a glorious, diffuse roar. It was a space designed for celestial sounds, pipe organs, choirs, boy sopranos, sounds with imperceptible articulations. But here, instead, 10,000 impulses, sticks striking skins across resonant wooden casks, became a many-limbed army storming the place, a tumult of actional sound, climbing the walls, bouncing off of every cornice, rounding every flying buttress. To hear those drums spill into a stone and mortar cathedral and to feel the reverberations enveloping us provided a special mystical thrill. a swarm of rhythm, a vortex of thwacks and thumps and claps, the global South striking back, engulfing the hubristic Western edifice that had been built on their backs. We followed the procession along the southern wall to the rear of the church and back up the center aisle. By then, the drummers had gathered behind the lectern and were really getting into something. The metal clappers of the Gnawa musicians are played in such a way that the tempo travels forward incrementally yet inevitably, such that the entire assembly cannot help but go with it. It just feels like the right thing to do. The result is an intoxicating rhythmic vector that drives the gathering towards ecstasy. That church bursting with sound and bodies summoned forth a million other souls in transit who joined and merged with Weston's journey across realms in a pulsating swirl of color.
Vijay Iyer sharing a first-person direct experience of the memorial service for his homegoing.
Yes.
Randy Weston. It was September of 2018.
Yeah.
That was beautiful, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Don't know where else I would put it, so I figured
it was right at home.
Yeah.
Right at home. Yeah, man. Well, these last few minutes, shall we go back? Get back on the...
We have time to get into this piece appropriately named The Beauty of It All.
The Beauty of It All. Man, Vijay Iyer, thank you so much for coming through tonight and for sharing and your insight about Randy Weston and calling our attention to him. It was a beautiful show. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch, and thank you for this trove of beautiful recordings and for uncorking it for us.
It's what we do, man.
You're the sommelier.
Yeah, exactly. Shouting out Darren Neblett. Thank you for being part of it tonight. And, let's head out with another trip down to Iridium, November 2013. This is the duet, Randy Weston and Billy Harper. It's Deep Focus on WKCR.
We did a recording for Verve, and a special piece I had Billy in mind. It's called The Beauty of It All, and it features the beauty of the tenor saxophone. The beauty of it all.
What a delight having Vijay Iyer in the studio with me for that deep focus on Randy Weston. A number of you have told me that you would like to make a contribution, a financial contribution to this show. I have never asked for anything like that, but to accommodate those who've asked, I don't want to put any pressure on anybody who doesn't want to kick in. But if you do, I mean, there are costs involved in bringing this to you. I do not get paid to do this show on the radio. I do not get paid to do this podcast. I don't take any advertising. It's all just coming out of my pocket. But so yeah, if you want to offset some of those expenses, any amount you want, you can. Turns out you could do it through PayPal. And the email address is deepfocusnow@gmail.com. deepfocusnow@gmail.com. You can use that. If you have a PayPal account, then, you just go in there and, follow the instructions. It's quite simple. And once again, I don't want you to feel like you're, I don't give anything extra. There's no tote bags. There's no coffee mugs. It's the same listening experience. Well, you might get a little extra pleasure knowing, a little pride that you are helping to make this happen. And it really would be very much appreciated. So there you go. All right. I'll see you on the next one.